It's October, which means more mock draft season as well. We got a lot of big college football games coming up this week, and we're going to talk about several of these players and these games during our second mock draft for the 2026 NFL offseason. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, get notified when more videos come out. Also, we're trying to get to 8,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so any help is greatly appreciated. Leave a like and a comment. Also, let us know what you think of this draft. And Ryan, let's see if we can pull up PFF here and get started. So last time Ryan went first. So this time I will go first. And it's a fun time. I know everybody sees here I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan living down here in Atlanta, Georgia. But oddly enough, I am actually an Indiana Hoosier fan, as I was born there, grew up. Both our dads, both our dads, same dad. Our dad, big Indiana basketball fan. So we grew up watching Bobby Knight basketball. And if you're a Big Ten fan, you know how awful IU football has been. But actually, it has been a lot of fun these past 2 years, thanks to Kurt Signetti, to actually watch good, competent Indiana football, which is very rare, I think, for a lot of Indiana fans, football in their life. But I bring that up here because there's a big game coming up this weekend, not only just for college football in general with Indiana at Oregon, but I think two big quarterbacks that a lot of eyes are going to be on there. Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore. And it definitely want to watch this game because I'm an Indiana fan as well too. But very excited to see how both of these quarterbacks go and play. Very impressed with both of them in their last game as well. Oregon at Penn State and Indiana at Iowa. Dante Moore impressed me a lot, fought through a very tough environment. So did Fernando Mendoza. I would say two definitely different quarterbacks as well. So that's what's going to be interesting, I think, when it comes to these types of selections here for the Jets, number one overall. And then there's a bunch of other quarterbacks that we'll talk about here in a second, but these are the two I want to focus on as right now, just for this pick, is who's going to be the one that is going to it's going to fit their need a little bit more. And I think with that as well too, I can absolutely see them going with Dante Moore. I'm not going to do that because I'm an Indiana fan and I want Indiana to win. But Fernando Mendoza he's got all the tools. You go and watch his highlights, he's made some amazing throws. He's got the intangibles. One thing I do want to see from him more, and what we're going to see from film as well, is just processing the defenses a little bit better, like when there's upcoming blitzes. And I don't think this has big of a knock as of right now, because I wonder if that is a coaching decision, because there has been some questionable play calls as well from Indiana in that Iowa game specifically, like on fourth down situations where there's the entire Iowa bench is in the box, and yet they still try and run it. And so that's where I think, to me, it's a coaching decision to not audible out of that play. I would love to see Mendoza take a little bit more control of the offense. I understand it's also college, but on the flip side, though, too, as well, like to Dante Moore, very impressed with him. Want to keep seeing him go through. He's got the mobility, which is opposite from Mendoza. Mendoza's athletic enough where he can run, but he's going to be that process pocket passer where he can just pick apart a defense. And that's what I think is going to be fascinating with this game as a whole. I'm going to go with Mendoza here. I take my bias out of it. I could absolutely see the Jets going with Dante Moore, who might be more like a Justin Fields-esque type quarterback, if that's a route that they want to end up going. I think for the Jets, I think they just want to win a game. They're the only one left now. But Ryan, I know that was a long kind of preamble here, but this is going to be the talk of the offseason. This is a very unique quarterback class. I think a lot of upside for a lot of these guys, but also some pretty serious floors. Like this could be one of the draft classes as well, quarterback wise, that we can look back and be like, oh, this quarterback class sucked. But teams need a quarterback, like the Jets, like the Browns. Who knows? Maybe even like the Saints definitely need it. The Raiders might go after it as well. So we'll have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, and I definitely think Mendoza would fit what the Jets are trying to do. Justin Fields is clearly a bridge quarterback. And I think you look at what Aaron Glenn, where he came from, Jared Goff to me is the comparison for Fernando Mendoza. Tall pocket passer with limited athleticism. I would say Mendoza is a little bit more athletic than Jared Goff is, but I don't want either of them taking designing quarterback runs for either of them. So I do like the fit there. I think weapons wise, I think Garrett Wilson would really appreciate the accurate passer there. I think right now his biggest hiccup, like you said, is just recognizing blitzes and being able to make adjustments pre-snap.
Yeah.
Some of that may be the system that they're in. Some of it might just be like, hey, like we don't allow him to make adjustments at the line.
Yeah.
Other aspects of it, it might just be him not seeing it. He did do a good job, I think, stepping up into pressure and delivering some
He's
big time
tough.
throws in the
Yeah.
pocket, which is definitely what you want to see there as well. So I really like him. I think he could be a fantastic NFL quarterback, especially in the right system. So moving on here though to the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are in an interesting spot because this defense, if you give this defense an average offense, they would be so good. Like they would actually they're not on the field nearly as much. Uh I mean, for me, this team is wasting like one of the best defensive players we've ever seen in Myles Garrett. So I really think they need to get this offense on the same page. I expect them to double down on offensive linemen in free agency. I really think they'll maybe make a move for a big time weapon, and I think they're going to do all of that just to try to get a quarterback in the room. And so let's cause some drama. Let's go get Dylan Gabriel's former backup quarterback here in Dante Moore and have them duke it out for the starting job here in Cleveland. I think he's more than earned it this year so far and how he's showed he can play. Had some big time plays in that Penn State game and came out clutch there. It said Fernando Mendoza reminds me a little bit of Jared Goff. Dante Moore, maybe not in his overall athleticism, uh, because Jaden Daniels is a great athlete, but just the way he throws the ball and is able to stand tall in the pocket and just his throwing motion and the way he whips his arm, it's a very repeatable motion. He's very accurate with it, and it does remind me a little bit of Jaden Daniels in
Mm-hmm.
how he threw the football. So let's go get Dante Moore to be the franchise quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it's definitely one. I mean, what Dylan Gabriel did last year with that Oregon offense was very impressive. First year in the Big Ten, going to win the Big Ten championship. That's great. Even to watching him, like, no, this guy's going to be a backup quarterback for most of his career. He's going to have an opportunity like this. Maybe he can kind of win the job, but I think there's a limit on what he can do in the office, on the offense. But Dante Moore, on the other hand, though, for my initial watch of this, and it's going to be a lot more information, a lot more like dissecting of this over the next several months. But he does look like he has that upside with that mobility with his arm as well too that we just didn't see with Dylan Gabriel. So as I said, it's going to be super fun to watch this game. Everybody tune in 3:30 Eastern time on CBS to watch Indiana versus Oregon. I hope Indiana wins. They're definitely the underdogs. And like I'm going to be rooting for them. Also, just make it look respectable, please. Like Indiana fans, we deserve this. So, but here with following up an AFC North team with another AFC North team, I think I can speak for everybody here. Wouldn't think that Baltimore would be off to this horrible of a start, but them picking third overall, it's just very interesting. They're dealing with just a bunch of injuries right now, but I think when I look at this offense, like I like what they've thrown together. There's not a receiver right here that I would take if they were even interested in one. I don't really think that's their issue overall, but I do think that if there's something that does need to be addressed, it I think this defensive side of the ball is like they have the names, they have the pedigree, they have the draft picks that are in there. They have a very young secondary overall that I think has a lot of talent, maybe still learning. But I do believe that it's just their best player available. Well, I don't say best player available because I think best player available on the board might be Caleb Downs, but I think that's going to be kind of redundant overall with what they have. And
Yeah.
so now I'm not taking that out of the possibility because Caleb Downs is that good of a football player. Imagine him and Kyle Hamilton in the secondary
Yeah.
there moving
That would be
around
you'd
would
have
be
Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks they just drafted last year as well. So that'd be you'd have
well. And
3 first round safeties.
you would have Nate Wiggins, Kyle Hamilton, Caleb Downs, and Malachi Starks, and Marlon Humphrey too as well, who was their first round pick from 2017. But like I that might be too much of overkill. I'm not taking it out of the realm of possibility. To me, I think they probably will go defensive line here and just try and get younger and just get some more explosive guys. And there's a bunch of good guys here that could potentially go at this time here. Rueben Bain, Peter Woods, TJ Parker, whichever one's going to fit their flavor. And there's even several other more guys here as well. But I think for me, kind of sticking out like right now, probably maybe more of the general consensus as of now. But Rueben Bain from Miami, he just has the measurables. Dude's huge, dude's explosive. I think he's going to fit really well within that Baltimore Ravens defense and help maybe take a little bit of pressure off this secondary. I think also on top of it too, I think there's going to be some changes overall in the coordinator room because it's amazing. Even going back to last year, just how rough this passing defense has been for Baltimore. But I think helping out the pass rush is going to also help out the secondary.
Yeah, no, I agree there, and I do think the secondary is good. They've invested a lot into it.
Yeah,
They're just getting blown off the ball. Like I was just filling in a stat sheet for them after their Week 5 loss to the Houston Texans, and 1 second, let it load. They gave up 167 rushing yards to a Houston Texans team that has not been able to do anything offensive line related.
yeah.
Um,
They're
and
dealing
so,
with a bunch of injuries, like a bunch of
yeah, yeah,
injuries,
yeah.
but that's unacceptable with how this Texans offense has been playing.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think going out and getting a Rueben Bain Jr. who is just as effective in the run game as he is in the pass, to be fair. I mean, look at those. That's just ridiculous. Those
Yeah,
PFF grades are crazy. Uh, so I think you can't go wrong here with that pick. You also look at that edge rush room. Justin Madubuike. I know he's more of a defensive lineman, but he has a serious injury. Kyle Van Noy is getting older. They did just draft Mike Green, but he has not looked as good so far. So I think that that's the right move there for the Ravens if they are picking this high. I think when it's all said and done, the Ravens probably aren't going to make the playoffs, but I think they'll be closer to 500 and will not be picking this high. So let's move on. Miami Dolphins, tough loss after this Week 5 against the Carolina Panthers there. Yeah, there's just not a whole lot I think to say about the Dolphins other than they're probably going to be in a rebuild mode here. One of the guys that I really like in this Mike McDaniel system would be Kenyon Sadiq, just because of his overall athleticism. I'm not going to make that pick though, because I don't think he's going to be the head coach next year. And I think for me, if you're a head coach, you have two under contract. He has a big cap hit in 2026. But with that being said, after that, you could probably get out of that contract for minimal penalty. And so I'm going to go with a new franchise quarterback. I think this offensive line and run game has been okay. It's this offensive line is trying to improve. They've invested in it a decent bit in the last few years. And so I think it would be good to go and get a guy like Lenore Sellers. He, to me, just the physical traits are so unmatched. You think of Cam Newton, Anthony Richardson, but he's a much more developed passer than both of those guys were at this stage in his career. I think ultimately he probably goes back for one more year at South Carolina, but I think if he comes out of the draft, I think he's a top 5 pick. And I really like the fit here. I think there's a lot of things you could do with Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. Now you have Lenore Sellers coming out of that backfield. Then you can invest in weapons later on in day 2 and 3. So
yeah,
I think Lenore Sellers comes down here and becomes the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins.
yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what decision he ends up making here because it's a unique draft class as a whole. Because like Mendoza's got the intangibles, he's got the upside. Dante Moore as well too. You even saw Garrett Nussmeier as well. You got even John Mater. And then I feel like there's even somebody else I was missing.
Mateer, not Nader.
Mater, sorry, like Toe Mater without the
No,
Mater.
it's Mateer.
I know that was a joke. That was from Cars.
Okay.
My 3-year-old daughter, we're watching Disney movies every day. But I think here and the Ty Simpson's also really been working his way up. So it's a very unique quarterback class. That being
Yeah.
said, the Sellers is the one like he does have these just physical attributes as well too. Like that's gonna potentially even put them first overall. It'll be shocking if like hey, you could be first overall. I don't say shocking, not in this new age of NIL, but then he comes back and said like, no, I want to stay in college for one more year. And so, but I think with the way this board has panned out, I probably was already going to go quarterback here for New Orleans anyways, but they also need a quarterback as well too. Like they need to figure out this quarterback spot. I still am high on Garrett Nussmeier with some of these throws. I also think too his dad being the OC is gonna him. He's also the local kid as well too, playing at LSU. I just think they're gonna need to make a move at this quarterback position and figure it out. Is this too high maybe for him? Potentially so, but at the same time, if you're New Orleans here, the Raiders could potentially take a quarterback. The Giants might be taking a quarterback. You could maybe kind of go down the line here a little bit. Like I, there's not too many teams I think that truly need a I don't know, Pittsburgh could be a team that could take a quarterback as well too, and they're going to be picking a little bit later. But I think here though, they've already got 3 quarterbacks off the board, and you go get a guy like Nussmeier. Is he perfect? No, but I think similar though to I think some of the other guys, he's got the intangibles. Like he's got the physical specs
Of
that
the
they're looking
quarterbacks
for.
in this draft, I think mentally he understands the game the best.
Yeah.
Uh,
And him running a Brian Kelly offense then as well too with the receivers that he does go and have, I think it might translate well to Kellen Moore's system with what they're trying to do.
yeah,
Also,
well,
to the Saints, I think the Saints they have to make a move.
well, so this is where I think it's actually interesting. I'm really curious to see what happens with Spencer Rattler as the season goes on, because one, he's actually looked okay. He's looked better than expected.
Very
But
low
then,
expectations. Yeah,
yeah,
compared, it
uh,
looks okay to his expectations.
but then they also just spent a top 40 or top 45 pick on Tyler Shuck. So I'm really curious to kind of see what they go and do, because if Spencer Rattler is playing okay, is it worth making the move to see Tyler Shuck? And then how does that translate into this draft class of where do they go at quarterback here? So Saints to me right now are a total wild card. I if I were to go quarterback, I might go Mateer. But to me, I think you have those first 3 that we took, and then you have this second group of Ty Simpson, John Mateer, and then probably Garrett Nussmeier as well. So it's really whichever one is your flavor out of that tier. But I do think those other 2 guys are probably names we will talk about later on in this video. So uh moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders. This is another team that they just have so many needs as well. I would love for them to go with like a Caleb Downs, even like a Peter Woods, and get somebody on that defensive interior. But Gino's just not the guy. He has thrown multiple interceptions in 4 out of 5 games so far this year. They also have to go and make a move at quarterback. So for me, I'm going to go. Do I want to go Ty Simpson or John Mateer? Let's go John Mateer. I feel like he's the better creator of the 2, and with the lack of weapons that they have there, I feel like he's going to be uh, a better fit for that system, because of his athleticism and ability to go and create. So let's go with John Mateer here. I'm not the biggest fan of guys who rely so much on self creation at the college level. Part of that though is he's had a tougher schedule, and I think if you can make plays in structure and then add on those bonus plays, kind of what we saw from like greatest college quarterback season ever potentially, but from Joe Burrow in 2019. I think that's where those skills really translate. Whereas Mateer sometimes he just runs around until he's able to find somebody open or scramble for a first down. And so I think that is going to have to be cleaned up at the next level. But you could find a gem here in John Mateer, and he's shown to be really good and really tough all at the same time. And I think that's something that you would want to build your franchise around.
Potentially, yeah. I think it's very unique. I think the Raiders got a lot of things that are on the board for what they could address here in the first round. I think offensive line is big.
Yeah,
I do agree. I think anything on the defensive side of the ball here is big. And I think another one too, sneaky one, and I just don't know, like more needs to come out from the receiving class, but I think another thing too why Geno Smith has been struggling as well. It has just been like just that receiving room in
yeah,
general. So maybe if you go get a Jordyn Tyson, but because if you do that, then they would pair him up with Jacoby Myers, who's a consistent guy for them.
yeah. Well,
But
he's a
then
free
you
agent this offseason.
at the end of the year too. So like
Yeah,
there's some decisions that need to be made. But then you would have your top tight end in the league, top like future potential top running back in the league as well. Offensive line needs some help too. And so I think kind of moving on to the Titans here, I'm back and forth between I think what I think they should take here is one of the best defensive fronts and front seven in the league as well too. Like, underrated just because the team is just not great as well. But they're younger on the offensive line side of the ball, and they're still trying to piece some things together. Um, and trying to stay healthy as well too. Like JC Latham's been battling some injuries, but I think I'm back and forth between either the top receiver here, Jordyn Tyson, or if you go and match up this amazing front seven for Tennessee and go get probably the best football player in this class since he's a safety. He might fall a little bit like where he's going to go, but Caleb Downs is probably the best football player in this class. And
Yeah.
you know what? Even too me thinking that as well. I think they're going to do it. It is like I think if you're Tennessee, your best player available here. Nothing against Jordyn Tyson, he's probably the best receiver in this class, but it's not like it's the best receiving class. Like there's a big difference between him and what I think they can go and get in the second and third round as well. They've made some investments in the receiving room last year with Alec Manor, then also Chamari DK as well too. They do still have Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett. I'm unfamiliar with their current contract situation as right now. I'll have to look into that here, but still veteran guys that Cam Ward can lean on. I think they can go get other young receivers as well later on in this draft. But I think you go get Caleb Downs though, and you're just like, no, we're getting the best player at this position here, and this is going to be a guy that you can always kind of build this defense around.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think too on the back end of that, right now, one, Caleb Downs is running a very complex system at the college level. And he is doing it at a very high level,
yeah,
playing a lot of robber. And so I I think that would be a really good fit here for the Tennessee Titans, just because that front seven is good. I do think they could also potentially use an edge rusher. And Calvin Ridley's getting older. Then you have Alec Manor
well, yeah,
in that receiver room as well. And I think that would be another good pairing with Jordyn Tyson. But yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with going best player available there, especially too. I think I'm curious how this class is going to shake out when we're looking at it in January. But I think there are again not a whole lot of true blue chip talent in this class, and Caleb Downs is definitely a blue chip safety. So I think it's
yeah.
smart to just go and grab a guy right there.
In this
So
draft, there's not too many. I don't say surefire things, but if there was a guy, Caleb Downs feels like he's like
yeah,
that top guy.
yeah, oh for sure. So him and Rueben Bain definitely, but Rueben Bain's at a premium position.
Yeah,
So here with the Giants, they also actually have a pretty decent defensive front, and they do not have any secondary help whatsoever. They went out, they did get Javon Holland in free agency, but if you look, Drew Phillips is a third round pick. The Deonte Banks experiment has just not worked out. So I'm going to go and get a guy who I really liked last year as a developmental prospect when he was expected to declare, but he transferred to LSU here in Mansour Delane, and it has just been lights out in man coverage, and just has really, in my opinion, solidified himself as the CB1 through the first 5 weeks of the season. And I really like what he brings to the table. I would be more on board with Jamad McCoy, but he still has not played yet this year. And so I want to see him do that. Keith Abney from Arizona State is another guy that I really like. So I I would be running Mansour Delane up to the podium at this point in the draft, because I think he's a really talented corner. It's a perfect fit for this team. So I like that pick there for them.
yeah. No, I think that one's solid. I think that's going to be a name that we're going to start hearing a lot more about, especially too if you look at that Giants defense, something similar with Tennessee. They've got a good defensive line. Like I think they need just some help in the back end
Yeah.
as well too. And it's kind of amazing too now. Like there's so many guys that have been drafted by New York, played in New York for several years. Now they're extremely successful with where they're at. Xavier McKinney's the one that's coming to my mind as of right now. But then
Yeah.
you got Daniel Jones, you got Saquon now. That's what's it's interesting here. So I feel bad for Mansour. He's probably going to have a rough rookie contract, but he's going to do well wherever his second team is. But here with Cincinnati, a lot of different ways they could end up going here as well. I mean, they just need so much help on the offensive line. This defense is just absolutely in shambles. I know they don't have cornerback in there as well for PFF, but that's kind of where I'm leaning to as of right now. I know Tremont McCoy, a guy that you just mentioned, like he hasn't played yet, but from what you said, like when we have seen him play, dude's a stud as well too. If we would go look at some of the other cornerbacks here, even Terrell, AJ Harris as well too, like all good guys as of right now. I I think another guy that would be interesting too, if we go look at like the interior guys, Jake Slaughter's a guy that's come to my mind. I don't think they're going to go tackle because they have Orlando Brown and they've invested in Amarius Mims as well too. But this seems like too high for an interior guy as of right now.
Yeah.
When you could go get Connor Lew or go get Jake Slaughter at the beginning of the second round. So for me, I think when I look at it here, I think they're going to take the top corner that's on the board and go Jamad McCoy. Sneaky, just saying if just knowing how Cincinnati has they like they know how bad their defense is. Would be very interesting to see Kenyon Sadiq in this offense as well too. They have Mike
Yeah.
Gesicki, yes, but then they don't just a bunch of other journeyman tight ends as well. Imagine you go get Kenyon Sadiq in
Yeah.
this offense now as well and be like, you're like, we don't care. Our defense sucks. We're going to score 55 points every single game, and
Well,
there's
Trey
nothing you can do
Hendrickson's a
about it.
free agent this offseason too. And so like that would be the ultimate just like F it, we're scoring 40 a game. Like,
Yeah, you and I, we might go try out for the Cincinnati Bengals defense. Like that,
yeah.
be like, we don't care anymore. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think Jamar McCoy here. It's Bengals. If they win a couple games and if they start picking in the teens, I do think then you take the flyer on the best center, Connor Lew or
Yeah.
Jake Slaughter or some of these other guys.
No, I agree. I think they definitely need to invest in that interior in the second or third round where they can get some better value. I do think there's a potential that they could go like Spencer Fano or
Yeah,
Francis Marinoa and then just kick them into guard, which is a potential for them anyways. So I
yeah,
think there's a lot of ways that they could go in that room for that offensive line. So here with the Carolina Panthers, this one, Peter Woods is just a phenomenal player. I can't pass him up here for this team. They need to fix that defensive interior. Derek Brown has come back and helped a little bit, but I like the Derek Brown, Peter Woods combination. They did get 2 edge rushers last year in that draft in Princely Uman Miele and Nick Scorton. And I think that like TJ Parker could be there, but I'm a much bigger fan of Peter Woods than I am TJ Parker, and they need to slow the bleeding on that run defense. And I think Peter Woods starts with that. And then also he will contribute in the pass rushes as well. So Peter Woods going there to the Carolina Panthers.
love it. Yeah, no, I think that Carolina defense is improved from last year, but that's saying like absolutely nothing
Yeah.
because that defense was awful last year. Well, the worst rushing defense by about 30 or 40 yards, and so they improved a little bit this year, but still not particularly great. So I expect a heavy defensive draft from Carolina, and I think when it comes to this draft here, it almost might be the opposite for the Texans. I think there's going to be a lot of offensive pieces here, and kind of. This is where I think if the Bengals hadn't invested in like the tackle position over the past couple years, this is where I think like they would go with Spencer Fanu or uh, the other guy that you just mentioned from
Francis Marinoa.
yeah, sorry. But I think this is where if you're Texans, you're like our offensive line is just so bad as of right now. Like we just need to figure this out. We need to give CJ Stroud a chance, like how it was his rookie year with what he was able to do. And I like the Ariante Ursay. I think that could be a guy that could keep on coming and keep on improving. But their entire interior and then even to maybe like eventually move on from Titus Howard as well too. And you got Trent Brown as your backup as well. I think you go with the guy that you really like. Jennings Dunker is another guy who has been rising as well too. Maybe throw in Caden Proctor as well, just because he's a dual threat athlete now with his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield on screen passes. Also too, he ran for a first down as well. I feel really bad for that Vandy defenders that had to try and tackle him. But Tamir, I think it's really pick your flavor. Really, I think amongst these I would say these top 3 guys here as well. I think Jennings is a guy that keep on rising, but I'll go with Spencer Fanu because I think because of his like overall athleticism and his overall versatility, he can kick inside. But so I think that's where the Texans are at least going to have options.
Yeah.
I think on what they want to do with him
The Texans should probably draft 4 offensive linemen in this
at
draft.
least, yeah,
Uh,
and start all of them
yeah,
next to
and
Ariante Ursary.
yeah, and that to me, like I like Blake Fisher. I think that's an option for them to continue to develop him there at right tackle. But yeah, I think Spencer Fanu could kick into right guard or maybe left guard there. And one thing that as I've watched more and more of these players, I have fallen less and less in love with any of these offensive linemen, especially in the top half of the first round. I think most of these tackles are probably going to end up being guards. I know that was the conversation we had last year, but some of that was arm length related. I think some of these guys legitimately have like athleticism concerns in just do they have the flexibility in their hips to actually do a
Well,
proper pass set? Do they have the speed to cut off the corner, but then also cut off the inside move there as well? So I think there's like legitimate like play style concerns about these guys. Where last year it was really just arm length related with like Will Campbell.
yeah. Well, and that was kind of the thing too with Ariante Ursary is like he does seem pretty stiff overall, but the dude was just so massive.
Yeah,
Like he was like 6'6", 330. Like
yeah.
be like, nah, you're just a giant human being. Like it's just gonna take a second for people to get around you. And with some of these other guys, just from what I've been seeing as well too, like they do have some of the potential to kick inside as well too. I don't have Caden Proctor's. I don't have I forgot to start putting in the offensive lineman measurements on my scouting reports I
He's
started to do. But
6'7", 360 is his.
so that is, I mean, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
That's even bigger than Ariante Ursary. But I mean, think you have him in there as a guard though, and you're right, like more just on running plays, like just run forward and block. That
Yeah,
that
it
can
would
help
be
out.
like a Mekhi Becton sized guard there.
Yeah,
So, uh, moving on, Arizona Cardinals. I think there's a few ways that they could go here, but I'm going to go with a guy that's been a big riser throughout this draft process, and that's Arvel Reese. He is not Abdul Carter as a prospect because Abdul Carter kicked down to be an edge rusher in his final season and then was just absolutely lights out. But you look athletically in the way he plays on and off the ball, and just how overall freaky he is. I I love Arvel Reese's game. He's so physical. He's always in the right spot. He's a tremendous quarterback spy. Um, Gets downhill in a hurry. Has fantastic closing speed. The only thing that I like, he's a former safety, I believe. The only thing that I haven't seen him do a ton of is like actually drop back into deeper coverage. And so that's the only thing I haven't seen him do. That doesn't mean he can't. But this is a first round pick for sure in Arvel
yeah,
Reese. So I would love to see what Jonathan Gannon can do with somebody of that skill set. But yeah, I think that's another good fit there.
yeah. No, it's I think in Arizona going to be just see where they end up this season. But I think they're still going to be like just in the best player available mode. They've done a good job piecing players together, and so I think for Dallas it is going to be defense, and more defense as well too. Like I maybe in later rounds they'll get some more skill position players, but to me though, I think you go and trade Mika Parsons, and then you're going to struggle with the pass rush this year, but this is where I think you go in, then you find your replacement for him. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys that they're going to throw at this. So it's going to depend on the type of guy that they want based off like the type of defenses. And if you look at Mika Parsons in general, he definitely was more on that modern day edge rusher, more than the big specific, like big defensive end. And that's why I think I'm going to lean more towards TJ Parker over Keldrick Folk, who's much
Yeah.
bigger. In general, so I think TJ Parker with his athleticism and his bend, not saying he's going to be Mika Parsons, but if you're trying to replace that as well too, I think that's going to be the guy. If it's not Rueben Bain, that's going to be the guy that you're going to want to fit more into your system.
Yeah, and he's also much more stout, and Keldrick Falk is as well, but he's much more stout against the run than the edge rushers that they currently have.
Yeah,
So I think that's a really good fit there, and honestly a good value. I think he's an underrated player because Clemson has not been good this year. So I think him and Peter Woods have kind of taken some of the blame of that
yeah.
in their draft stock. But uh, all in all, I think that that's a really good fit there. So here with the Rams, this is the Atlanta pick. And then they also pick
No, they're
again at some
picking.
point. Oh, they pick at 18. So two of my next three picks will be for the Rams. Uh, Very interesting. I'm very tempted by Jordyn Tyson. I think he is an elite wide receiver talent at this stage of the draft. So you have him, Puka Nakua, um, Tutu Atwell, Devontae Adams is there, but he's getting older. Let's get Jordyn Tyson here. You got 1 to 2 more years with Matt Stafford. Let's just go all out with these offensive weapons. And let's get Jordyn Tyson here. They don't need wide receiver, but that's just too good a value to pass up if this is how the draft were to play out.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty wild if you go and put him in there. And we've already seen guys who have nowhere near the amount of just like hype coming into the season or into this draft be successful and then you
Yeah.
go get a guy like Jordyn Tyson and put him into that Sean McVay system. I think it'll be really, really great. And so I think with my pick now with Kansas City, it almost feels like I'm cheating a little bit because I don't expect Kansas City to be picking 15. But
Yeah.
it's weird. It's interesting on where Jeremiah Love is going to fall, but it's like his defense is really good. They got a lot of good guys on there. I think they can address the interior later on, and honestly, too, basically these last couple games, and we're recording this right now during Monday Night Football, but it's this offense looks better. The offensive line seems to be playing a little bit better. I think you put Jeremiah Love back there, and now if you improve this offense, no matter they're more balanced, have more of a dual threat capability. Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, I think they've done great service for the city of Kansas, or for Kansas City, and not the city of Kansas. That's going to come back to bite me. But for Kansas City, and the Chiefs, uh, going with Jeremiah Love here, I think just absolutely just catapults this into a really good running game as well too.
Yeah.
And now you have the offensive mind of Andy Reid, and you got Patrick Mahomes at the helm, controlling the plays. I think this offense just got way more scarier.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be a good fit here, and they can invest in some offensive linemen later on. I'm curious. Jawan Taylor is the most penalized player in the league through the first 5 weeks,
Well, it
and
could be more too because he feel like he's always set up illegally.
yeah, he's set
Uh,
up illegally. I feel like he's always rocking back like right before the snap. There are a lot of things I think that players get away with that are like on the edge there. I just feel like he's one that's
yeah.
constantly pushing the envelope. Um, Here with the Chicago Bears, I would be taking Jeremiah Love if he were here. Uh,
Oh yeah.
Very interesting group of players left. Excuse me. I'm not really sure
Well, this is what's going
where
to be
I want to
unique with this.
go.
This is what's going
Oh,
to be unique with this class is because there's a couple of like some big names that to top off, but even too, there's questions with those guys. Now, when you get to this point, like I feel like this draft could go in
yeah.
so many different directions as of right now.
I'm trying to think of linebackers that would be worth taking here, but it's just not similar to safety. It's just not the more valued position.
Yeah,
Um, Keldrick Falk, I think, would be interesting in that Dennis Allen defense with 4 down linemen. You get just a freaky, lanky wide receiver there. Um, I don't know. Just gonna keep scrolling.
I think that would be
Let's,
interesting as well too.
yeah, let's do Keldrick Falk. You're just kind of betting on the athletic traits here because the
Yeah,
production has not fully matched. But you go look at people his size should not move the way he does on tape, and he has very good bend. He's stout against the run. I think in a Dennis Allen system, that's a fairly high floor pick right there.
yeah.
So let's go ahead. Let's do Keldrick Falk here to the Bears.
I like it. I like it. No, I'm glad you ended up doing that here because it's really set up for Washington. I think to have a very interesting decision here, and even actually too now that I like I'm just going back and forth in my head because could they use some more edge rushers? Yes. Could they get a little bit better in the secondary? Yes. They made some trades that have helped them out now, but like, could they go get younger? Like by that, I mean specifically like with Marshawn Lattimore, but it's uh, could they get younger just on the defensive side of the ball? Yes, I think they can do that. But I think one of the things that we're seeing here from a team like Tampa Bay, who already has a lot of really good offensive weapons, but you go and get a good, solid offensive weapon to help out, just make it even better. Then you just don't have that lapse for when these veteran guys get injured or just as those guys maybe lose a step because they're getting older. So I'm looking at that with Tebow Samuel. Terry McLaurin still in his, I'd say still within his prime. They drafted him in 2019. And I'm debating between Carnell Tate, but another guy who's way past his prime who's doing really well is Zach Ertz. And I think if you go and find his replacement right now with Kenyon Sadiq, who he's also a good run blocker as well too. Like I think Kenyon Sadiq come April next year might not be available by 17. If we're being honest, just with his overall athleticism, I think you go put him and his athleticism with Jaden Daniels, and then they keep Terry McLaurin as well too. Maybe if they even re-sign Deebo Samuel as well, this offense could get wild with everything Cliff Kingsbury could end up doing if he's still the offensive coordinator there. So I'm going to go with Kenyon Sadiq. I also could really see them going with Carnell Tate as well too. And I say that also we're seeing the success that Mecca Book is having down in Tampa Bay. Maybe it's something similar. So, but don't think they can really go wrong with either one of those guys.
Yeah. Kenyon Sadiq is a monster. He is like the epitome of blocking as a mentality because he's really like he's 6'3". He kind of like he doesn't have a wiry frame, but he's just not like the thick tight end that you usually see. Like that's a good blocker, but he just gives 110% effort in those situations, and I love his game, and I think that'd be a fantastic fit for him there. So here with the Los Angeles Rams, I'm going to go with Ty Simpson. I really like what he's done. I think if you go back and watch a lot of the games that they've played, you can see him methodically making adjustments. And like the UGA game was fantastic. He's a better athlete than you'd think. He can drive the ball when he needs to. He plays with good. He throws with a good touch ball as well. So I'm going to go with Ty Simpson here. He's going to sit behind Matt Stafford for a year or two, but I think you get him in that Sean McVay system. And honestly, he could be a better version of Brock Purdy, I think that's probably the best way I can describe him if he's developed properly and is working hard and doing a good job back there. So I like that pick for them. You get Jordyn Tyson, you get Ty Simpson in that system, and that's the future of the Rams.
Yeah, that's the future of the Rams, and I still like, as long as Sean McVay's the head coach there, I think they're going to be absolutely fine, even to post Matt Stafford. So here for your New England Patriots, I think you guys are also going to be set up for success for a very long time, especially with Vrabel as the head coach. For me, I think several different ways you can end up going here. I think it'd be interesting if you guys got maybe some more skill position players, but I think you guys can wait on that in the draft. I do think still on improving this offensive line is going to be huge. And so for me, I go look at Francis
Maui Noah.
Maui Noah. Okay, and there's no N in there though, so I'm going to question that one. But Francis Maui Noah as well too. But I think also there might be a good case as well too. If you guys go straight to the center, if you guys go get a Jake Slaughter or go get a Connor Lew, maybe they're available in the second round as well. So that's where it's interesting. But I do still think focusing on this offensive line and you kick Francis into guard, it is the reason why you draft a guy like this right here. I think maybe if you go get Cassius Howell or some other guys on the defensive line, help out. But I think for here, I think you want to keep on protecting Drake May, and you're going to go get Francis.
Maui Noah.
Maui,
like Maui from Moana, and Noah.
There you go.
Like the name.
Disney movies. I can remember that.
I think that'd be a good fit. I think especially for the physicality that they want to play with. I think that he could definitely step in. I would love to see them maybe go after Carnell Tate in that situation if he's there.
That could be good.
I think you look at the future of that wide receiver room. Stephon Diggs is in his 30s. Kayshon Boutte is a good receiver, but he's going to be nothing more, I think, than like a complimentary 2 or 3 throughout his career. Matt Collins is on a 1-year deal. So I think that would be the pick that I would probably go with there. But Maui Noah, I mean, I hope he has the athleticism to stay out on the right side there. But if not, you can kick him into left guard. And then I actually think Jared Wilson, the center that you drafted last year, who's currently playing left guard, would kick into center at that point. And then you'd have Will Campbell, Maui Noah, Wilson, and then Mike and Wayne was your 4, and then you just have to figure out right tackle at some point.
Morgan Moses.
Yeah, but he'll be 35 next year.
No. Yeah, so, you gonna get right tackle later on in this draft.
Yeah. So I like the fit there. Here with the Broncos, I'm going to go Carnell Tate. I just think that that's too good a value. I have him as a top 15 player on my board. And if there's one thing that like the last 4 years of drafting or paying attention to the draft and scouting these players has taught me, just draft Ohio State wide receivers and you'll pretty much be fine. I think
they are definitely receiver you.
Oh, for sure. And you go look at what Emeka Egbuka is doing, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Marvin Harrison Jr. is, even as rough as his time in Arizona has been, which isn't fully his fault, I still think he's looked really good as well. So I'm going to go here, get Carnell Tate, and just plug him into that offense. I think he'd be a good complement to Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton. Adam Troutman there as well. So I like that fit, and I think that would give Sean Payton and Bo Nix a really good array of pass catching weapons to go and make a push for this division.
Yeah, no, I really like that a lot. That's just another weapon, I think, for Sean Payton, as you said, to put into his system here. And so with the Chargers here, I mean, their first string offense is really good when healthy, but I mean, they essentially have a second string offensive line as of right now. And so I think it's something that they'll end up addressing. But at the same time, though, too, it's like when healthy, who would you in this draft class start over them as well? So for me, I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball. I like the front seven that they have together. So for me, I think they're going to take who they're going to think is going to be their top corner. And so for me, I'm going to go with Avion Terrell, brother AJ Terrell plays for the Falcons, but I don't think they can go wrong with AJ Harris either out of Penn State. But trying to solidify that secondary and help out just this already good defense, but just make it, just keep on improving it. They maybe could go Mekhi Lemon, but I think they might address receiver later on in the draft. Because I mean, Quinn Johnson has developed tremendously. They drafted Trey Harris last year as well. I think he's going to be the Keenan Allen replacement when Keenan Allen moves on after the season. And then you still have Ladd McConkey that you can lean on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that would be a good fit there. I can also see them going with like a Cassius Howell and potentially try to find another edge rusher there before like Khalil Mack retires and maybe strengthen that defensive line. But here with the Vikings, interesting season so far for them. The transition to JJ McCarthy has been slowed due to injuries, and so all in all, they're also one of those teams. They've done a really good job, I think, of kind of filling out their roster, and they've made moves at a lot of different places. I'm also going to go and get them some corner help. Do I want to go Keith Abney or Colton Hood? Let's do Keith Abney. He wasn't in the last mock draft, so he's just been a really solid player for Arizona State, and I think his aggressive play style, I think, would complement Brian Flores and what he for the Minnesota Vikings.
I like it. Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Like, there's a couple of coordinators that are already kind of on our radar. Brian Flores is one that might be a head coaching job. Cliff Kingsbury, who I mentioned earlier, he might be looking for a head coaching job. Have to kind of wait and see how their overall year looks and what the offseason holds for them. Also, who all gets fired and which jobs are open. So here was Seattle. Very impressed overall with way Sam Darnold's offense has been going. They definitely need some offensive line help. And some of the offensive line that I would take that potentially could kick in might be taken. Like, you have Charles Cross, who's really good. You could get Jennings Dunker as well, but you have Abraham Lucas there as well. I think he's been doing a good job. To me, I would be looking at the interior. And so, like, is it too high for Jake Slaughter or for Connor Lew? And honestly, too, it's not too far from when Connor Lew's, like, a lot of other people are saying, like, he will be taken. So let's go and do that. Let's go and get Connor Lew. Let's get their future center as well. They can maybe go with some other interior offensive linemen as well too. But this is about that spot though, where I think if you need a center and there's guys that are there on the board that have potential first round talent, be like, take the guy here. Don't worry about it. He probably won't be there for the Seattle's next pick.
Yeah.
But keep on solidifying that offensive line. this offense has improved. Has played a lot better than I initially gave them credit for. With everybody moving on and the trades that they made as well too. Then you go and bring in Sam Darnold with questionable offensive line. If they can solidify that, that's only going to help out the run game with a great running back room with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Really like this addition overall if they're able to continue improving.
So moving on now to the Dallas Cowboys here. We went and got TJ Parker with the first pick. I do still feel like they need some help on that defensive line. So let's look and just see what talent is there. Honestly, the guy that I'm leaning towards here is Mateo Oyungale, DJ's little brother. He's not so little, but just athletically, you pair up those two edge rushers, and that's a really good young duo there. I think that could solve a lot of their pass rush woes. Both of those guys are pretty effective against the run. So let's just get Mateo right here.
Well, I think that's interesting too for Dallas as well because they have invested into the financially invested into the secondary, like with Trayvon Diggs and also Deron Bland as well.
Yeah.
So that's where I do think it's like, well, let's invest some young talent in there because we have invested money on that side of the ball. So here, moving on to Pittsburgh, a lot of different ways I think they could end up going here. When I look at this, it's like you always think they should get a quarterback, they should get some skill position players, but they typically have gone a different route from that as well too. And so it's interesting they're saying that they need to tackle but they've invested in Broderick Jones and also Troy Fautanu over the last couple.
Fatanu's kicked inside, and Broderick Jones has not been the greatest.
Great, but as of right now, Fautanu's they have him as right tackle, and then the Broderick Jones is left tackle on the depth chart. And so, I do think they have a young offensive line because now even too you look at Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, guys that were also drafted. Actually, 2024 they have 3 starters from that offensive line draft class. So I think what's going to be interesting here for Pittsburgh is just they have a couple of key players that are getting older. Do they want to try and find their replacements? Like you go have Cam Hayward there, and it's like you go look at a guy like Caleb Banks. Is he the guy you maybe slowly start developing it and getting younger? I mean, and you've invested some pieces in that area, but like on the defensive tackle side, not nearly as much. Like they got Logan Lee in the 6th round from 2024. So I think here, I'm going to just go back and look to make sure that he has the right size for Caleb Banks. He has 6'6", 330. Good season so far out of Florida. I think that's a big enough guy. I think that's going to be a guy that they could end up going to beefing up the interior. Like they say that they'll get a quarterback. I think maybe AJ Harris could be another good one. I'm going to stick with Caleb Banks here on this one. But it's also the Steelers though. They have their way of doing things. It's been generally successful over the past 50 years. And so I do think they'll probably focus on the interior here, keep building up the trenches overall. And
Caleb Banks.
Yeah. Let's go Caleb Banks.
Okay. Yeah, I think you pair him with Derek Carmen. I think that's a good pairing, especially to Cam Hayward is quickly approaching the end of his career, although he still looks pretty solid in the first half of the season. So here with the Browns, their 2nd pick of the first round here. So Dante Moore was the first one. Let's get Jennings offensive line to build around. They haven't been able to stay healthy. He's a great people mover in the run game. He's going to probably kick into guard, but I think that's going to be the biggest thing there for him is just going to be, can he make that transition into guard? Other than that, physicality-wise, strength-wise, I think that is a really good fit for them. They're going to protect their young quarterback.
Yeah, he's an Iowa lineman. I think he's going to do well.
Yeah,
and so I think you just got your rookie quarterback. I think that's going to be somebody that you can go and keep building around. And not more and with your quarterback, like you want to then be able to protect him. So here with Tampa Bay, kind of move a little bit quicker. I think if there's an area of this team, I think that probably just needs to keep on just improving as well. It is just going to be this secondary. They have some younger pieces in general. I think they've done a really good job. And they've got some really good veterans on that defensive front 7. They've invested some young draft picks in general on this side of the ball, but I think when a guy like AJ Harris is there, I think that's going to be a guy that they end up going to. But really though with Tampa Bay, I really just love what they've done with their roster. Like there's not they got when healthy one of the best offensive lines in the league. I mean they've replaced Mike Evans with Emeka Egbuka. So whenever Mike Evans moves on, like well now we got Emeka Egbuka who can go and get 200 receiving yards in a game for him as well. So great transition there. Love the running game. Like this roster just really put together really well. So they're going to go best player available based off their needs, but I do think if you go get a guy like AJ Harrison there, he could start competing for starting cornerback spots from day one.
Yeah, I think they just need that secondary. They paid Zion McCollum, but they need somebody else opposite of him to really come in and be that impact corner as well. So I think Detroit is probably in a similar spot where you go look, like they have Terry Arnold, they lost Carlton Davis. I know they just paid DJ Reed as well, but he's getting a little bit older. I think they could definitely use another guy. And Colton Hood is a really talented corner out of Tennessee as well, along with Jermod McCoy. I'm going to go and make this investment here for them. They could potentially invest in the offensive line, but I just don't necessarily love anybody at this point. Like, I think Caden Procolomu goes back. So I just am not super sold on anybody at this point in the draft at tackle. So let's go continue to strengthen up that secondary and really make them a solid unit, especially when they have one of the best pass rushes in the league.
I like it. And so I think another team as well too has just a good overall defensive system, but will continue to keep on adding guys to the defense side of the ball. It's what they do. Is going to be Buffalo here, and for me, I think an area where they could end up improving is they do have guys like Matt Milano, who's getting a little bit older. While they've invested in some areas of in that linebacking room as well, like with Terrell Bernard. They also too got Dorian Williams, but he's been hurt. But I think in general they're just trying to get better and just more athletic. I look at Anthony Hill from Texas. I think he's going to be able to come in there and also kind of replace that area. Like everybody loves Matt Milano up in Buffalo. He's fun to watch. His issue just these past couple of years is just staying on the field.
Yeah.
So how much longer is he going to be able to stay there in Buffalo? And I think going in and trying to find his replacement. A lot of different routes they could end up going. Secondary is very on the table for Buffalo too, but we just kind of had a run of secondary guys come off the board.
And also too, they just drafted Maxwell Harrison in the first round last year. I am very excited about this linebacker class. This is not something that we've had in the last few years, but like you go look, Sonny Styles, Deontay Lawson, CJ Allen. We have Arvell Reese, Anthony Hill Jr. on the board. Harold Perkins is a really good athlete. Jacob Rodriguez is another really good linebacker as well. So I love this linebacking class. And it's a really big strength. I think we're going to see a big run here at this point in the draft. I think the Colts could be another team that take a linebacker as well. Yep. So here with the 49ers, they need a lot as well. This is a team. They're also really banged up with injuries right now, but I'm going to go with the California kid. I'm going to go with Mekhi Lemon just because, one, I think it's really good value at this point, but he reminds me of a little bit thicker Amon-Ra St. Brown, where his ability to create after the catch, he's just such a fluid mover. He has really strong hands. But I think he could kind of play that Debo role that they had in this offense for so long. So I really like Mekhi Lemon here, the 49ers. They have a lot of other needs, but this is also one of the best drafting teams in the league. And I think that they could take a swing at wide receiver here and then try to fill things in the back end a little bit later.
Yeah. It also for both Buffalo and San Francisco, this is the way it shapes up here. Would not be surprised if both of these teams trade out of the first round, especially too if you scroll down a little bit more, look at all the receivers that are now kind of falling into this spot. As of right here as well. And there's even other guys too, guys like Elijah Surratt, Chris Ball. Some of these guys can rise up. I think just this is a weaker receiving class, and so if guys fall in love with them, so on in this draft, and I think for me, with Shaq Leonard moving on as well too, I think linebacker is a potential spot. I think a couple of guys that I would want them to take have already gone off the board, but I think for here though, I think just in general, just keep on improving this defense as a whole. So if we go back to just the big board overall. I think you go and get a guy that can come in and help fill up that middle, and so this still have like their younger athletic guys like Kwity Paye or Leatu Latu come attack from the outside. I think for me, I would go look at Christian Miller out of Georgia. I think that's going to be a guy that a lot of meat that they could stuff up there in the middle to stymie some of the running games here within the division, but also in the AFC as a whole. So I think that's going to be what they can go. I do think it's going to be defensive focused because I love what they've done together so far on the offensive side of the ball. With all the receivers they have, Daniel Jones seems to be coming in nicely. So I think it's going to be a defensive focused draft for the Colts.
I think that would be very good. I could also see them going with like a Sonny Styles, a rangy linebacker as well. The Colts are in a really good spot. They have done a really good job drafting, and finally this year it looks like the talent has really kind of come together for that team. So final pick here of this mock draft, I'm going to go with Cassius Howell. I just think at A&M, he is explosive off the ball. And so I really like what he could potentially bring to the table. And so for me, go and get a guy like him. I think that is the way to go, especially too, that defensive interior is really solid with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. But edge rush wise, they just haven't been as good. Josh Sweat was solid when he was there, but all in all, I just think you go get an explosive edge rusher like Cassius Howell, and that defense can start to work back towards that historic season we saw from them last year. So,
yep, no, I like that a lot. I think that's an area too. It's like they moved on from some pieces in general, but still, though, they keep on just making this young talent as well. Like, they've got these guys locked in a contract for the next several years. So I think this Eagles team is going to be around to stay. So it's fun doing this mock draft here as a whole. We accidentally set it up as a 2-round mock draft, so trying to see if we can get the overall
I can't
quick review. But,
at that.
No, that's fine. Well, I think in general, though, it was funny if all the order that we had last time, very unlikely that it's going to be any similar order whatsoever. I think guys are going to keep on moving. Who knows what's going to happen with this Indiana-Oregon game? The stock might fall or continue to rise for Mendoza and Dante Moore as well too. Who knows? Maybe both their stocks fall. Just the way they both of these guys end up playing. I think it's going to be really fun to analyze the quarterback position amongst all these guys because all different, unique guys with all kind of different skill sets. So it's going to be a fun offseason to really kind of analyze and kind of project where we think these quarterbacks are going to go.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, I do think that this is a really good class. I know this class has gotten some hate amongst the draft is in the trenches. I think defensive interior and offensive linemen are this is just not the class for those specific positions. Maybe we'll have some late season risers there, but right now I just am not in love with anybody at those spots. But you go look, there's plenty of edge rushers, there's plenty of linebackers, corner, safety, pretty solid. Wide receiver is shaping up to be probably better than last year. I would say Jordyn Tyson is better. I don't know if at the same, if not better. Quarterback definitely much better than last year's class, though. So you got to be excited when all of these newcomers are able to get into the league and see what your franchise can do to improve through this draft process. So it's fun to do this exercise and see where some good fits are. But for now, let's go ahead. Let's wrap it up. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of your team's pick. Did you love it? Did you hate it?